Can anyone tell me? Whenever we have to find the expansion, though in this particular question it is mentioned that find Maclaurin expansion of x sin x. In most of the questions, sometimes the series is not mentioned. It is simply asked that expand sin x or expand x sin x. All right. So I assume that you should be clear, or I instruct you that you should be clear in what it means if it is said expand. Like if you have to do for sin x, it's very simple, right? How will you find sin x? You are finding Maclaurin. That means your thing is, just a minute, this is about 0. Okay, so the expansion was, the Maclaurin expansion was this. This was the expansion. Fx is equal to f0 and so on. So if we have to find fx, we go for this. There are two ways, so I'll take a one way at a time. Now see what we have to do in this. You have fx is equal to sin x. So f0 is 0. F dash x is cos x. F dash 0 is 1. F double dash x is minus sin x. F double dash 0 is 0. F triple dash x is minus cos x. F triple dash 0 is minus 1, and so on. You can see that you will only find odd derivatives as non-zero derivatives, right? Now what was the expansion? The expansion was fx is equal to f0 plus x f dash 0 plus x square upon factorial 2 f double dash 0, and so on, right? Now when we put these values, what do we get? We will get fx, which is sin x. This is equal to f0 is 0 plus x plus 0 minus x cube upon factorial 3 plus 0 plus c 4, and what will be 5? 5 will be again cos x, so that will be plus. Alternate plus minus you will get, right? So expansion of sin x is x minus x cube upon factorial 3 plus x5 upon factorial 5 minus x7 upon factorial 7. Plus minus you will get. Now the question is find the expansion of x sin x. So when you have to find the expansion of x sin x, it is, you multiply this with x. So if you have to get for x sin x, you multiply this series by x, and that will be your output. So output is expansion of x sin x is x square minus x4 upon factorial 3 plus x to the power 6 upon factorial 5 minus x to the power 8 upon factorial 7 plus, and so on. Is this okay?
यस मैम, अंडरस्टूड।
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
मैम अगर इसमें सीधे एक्स साइन एक्स की एक्सपेंशन से नहीं होगा ना मैम, अगर ले क्वेश्चन?
नहीं, काम बढ़ जाएगा ना तुम्हारा. इफ यू ट्राई टू डू इट विद x sin x, then you have to use product rule all the time, so that will increase your work. Are you understanding what I mean? When you take x sin x, every time you will differentiate, you have to use product rule, and that will be lot of work. Like when you find f dash x, it is x cos x plus sin x, right? Then you find f double dash x, 4 terms you will get. So that's lot of work, unnecessary.
मैम अगर x की जगह log x होता तो
तो अलग बात हो जाती है. तो और बात होती, तब तो तुम्हें दो अलग अलग सीरीज लेकर प्रोडक्ट लेना पड़ता,
ओके मैम।
because getting the product and then getting four terms, because you are differentiating it till f5, so it's lot of work. So we do see in mathematics, our motive is to reduce the work, not to enhance the work or increase the work. Is that fine?
Yes
So
ma'am.
this is one type of expansion. There is one more type of expansion in which it is said that you expand with respect to some specific a, as the series was given here, this series. This was the expansion about, all right. So if we have to expand about a, we have to identify a. So this is one thing. Let us see how to go about it. Just see this question. Find first four terms of Taylor series for this function. The function is log x at a is equal to 1, then 1 by x at a is equal to 1, then sin x centered at a is equal to pi by 4. Now what is asked from you? It's not that you are expanding it only log x. You are expanding it about 1. Okay? So when you have to expand about a particular point, then the expansion that you will use is this. Fx is equal to fa plus x minus a fx, sorry, f dash a plus x minus a square upon factorial 2 f double dash a, and so on. When will you use this expansion? When you are expanding it about a specific point. Okay, when no point is mentioned, that means we expand it about 0, as we did in the previous question where you have expanded sin x and nothing was mentioned. That means we have expanded it about 0. Is it fine? This distinction is understood or not?
Yes ma'am.
So now you have to expand log x centered at a is equal to 1. So you will use this expansion. Your fx is log x. So you will find f dash x is 1 by x, f double dash x is minus 1 by x square, f triple dash x is 2 by x cube, f fourth power x is minus 6 by x square, and so on. And then you put all these values on this. So when you will find f1, the value is log 1, which is 0. F dash 1, you put it here, that is 1. F double dash 1, you put it here, that is minus 1. F triple dash 1, you put it here, that is 2. F fourth power 1 is minus 6. Now, generally, when nothing is mentioned, we write 3 to 4 terms. Now, substitute it here. Log x is log 1, x minus 1 into 1, x minus 1 square upon factorial 2, this formula, into minus 1, x minus 1 cube upon factorial 3 into 2, and this. And this is the simplified expansion. Is this okay? Is this okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the second part of the question. You have to expand 1 by x centered at a is equal to 1. So you can understand you are expanding first derivative onwards. So fx is 1 by x, f dash x is, and so on. You did it here. Here you have started from log x, here you have started from 1 by x. So from this term onwards, the derivative is already done. So we are not doing it. Now you will start from f1. So f1 is 1 in this case, then f dash 1 is minus 1, and keep on substituting the value and see what you are getting. This is something which is interesting. Now here in this case, what you are getting, This 2 is cancelled by this 2, this 6 is cancelled by 6, this 6, and so on. So this is an expansion of 1 by x, which is about 1. All right? Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Now there is a third part of the question, that you have to find the derivative of sin x centered at a is equal to pi by 4. Now here, how will you start? You will do the expansion using x minus pi by 4. Here you have used x minus 1. So let's see how it is done. See this. First thing, you will use differentiation, and then you will use the values after differentiation. It is done in short, but I hope you can make out. Fx is sin x, f dash x is cos x. We did this in the previous question. I'm doing till fourth term, and then the values are being repeated. Okay, so when you write it at pi by 4, so what will be fx? Sin pi by 4, that is 1 by root 2. So just to avoid root in the denominator, you can write it like this. Is it okay? Is this fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Same way we write this also. And this is minus 1 by root 2. So that is minus root 2 by 2. This is also minus root 2 by 2. And this is root 2 by 2. So I am writing 5 terms. And see how you are expanding. Your a is pi by 4. So you will write x minus pi by 4. So first term, see, you are writing sin x is equal to first term, that is sin pi by 4, plus x minus pi by 4 into first value. So I am writing it f dash pi by 4, plus x minus pi by 4 by whole square by factorial 2 f double dash pi by 4, and so on. Now the value is substituted. We have solved it. Sin x is root 2 by 2 plus x minus pi by 4 root 2 by 2 plus x minus pi by 4 square by factorial 2 into minus root 2 by 2 from here, and then this value, and beyond this value again it is started repeating itself. Okay, so you can take out root 2 by 2, and this is the expansion. Is this expansion understood or not? Is this fine? Nobody is responding.
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Let's take the next question. See, if you check this question, find first 4 terms of Taylor series for the function x minus 1 e to the power x. Now the base, as we did in the previous question where you had x sin x, you have expanded sin x and then you multiplied it by x. In this question also we will do the same to reduce our work, because if you will not do the same, then it will have this kind of situation. And when you differentiate it 2 terms and 4 terms and 8 terms, so it is not advisable. That will unnecessarily increase the length of the question. All right, so first you differentiate e to the power x, find the expansion of e to the power x, and then multiply it by x minus 1. That will do our work just fine. And where will you expand this? Since you are multiplying it by x minus 1, you expand it about 1. Is this direction understood or not?
About 1 क्यों कहेंगे?
क्योंकि x minus 1 से ले रहे हैं ना, first 4 terms of the Taylor series for the function x minus 1. Because if you do it about 0, you will just get e, nothing you will get. Because the derivative of e to the power x is e only. 1, 1, 1 you will get, na?
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
When you take x as 0, you will get only 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So no expansion. You want x minus 1 in the expansion. So that's the best way to do is you expand it about 1. Generally, it is mentioned in the question about which point you have to expand. But if it is not mentioned, you have to think little intelligently. Okay? So now see how the expansion is done. Differentiation is simple because you are differentiating it for ex, all the outputs are same, and it is set first 4 terms, so you write it for first 4 terms, and then you multiply it by x minus 1. Okay, now you can ask why this symbol is used, because this is not equal, you have truncated the series after 4 terms. That's why this symbol is used. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now there are some functions in which we do not expand directly, but we use some other formula to make it happen. Like see this question. Using 1 by 1 plus x equals to this, find the Maclaurin series for the function 1 upon 2 plus x. Now do you know how we got this? How we got this expansion? Very simple. You expand this. This is binomial. When you expand this, you will get this series. Check this. Okay. So when you have to solve for 1 upon 1 plus 2x, the best way is we can do it like this. See, you can write this as 1 plus, take out 2, and this will change into 1 plus x by 2, which is half 1 plus x by 2 to the power minus 1. Now, in place of x, you have x by 2. So when you do the expansion, it is half 1 minus x by 2 plus x by 2 square minus x by 2 cube. This is the expansion. And this is direct expansion. There is not much that you have to do in it. You can multiply this 2 inside and get the answer. Is this fine?
Yes, ma'am.
So my request is that revise binomial. You will be using binomial in this again and again. Okay. And there is one more type of question which is not
Actually, ma'am,
mentioned here. Huh?
ma'am,
Yes,
how is
beta,
the
bol.
expansion of 1 upon 1 plus x done by using series, ma'am?
By using binomial expansion.
Okay.
It is expected of you to revise binomial, bacha. Now there is one more type of question I want to take. Write a question. Expand log x in powers of x minus 1 by Taylor's theorem, and hence find log 1.1. Now when we have to use Taylor's theorem, there is a formula of Taylor's theorem, though, which is simplified in this. You can treat it this way. So your fx is log x. Okay. Now the Taylor theorem gives you this. you have to do it using x minus 1. So the value that you have to put, as we did in the previous one, actually what happens, the expansion is like this beta. F of a plus h is fa plus h f dash a This is your Taylor expansion by the theorem. Okay, the formula, sorry, the formula that was given in the beginning is derived formula from this. Okay, now what we want here? We want here x. So when we want here x, the adjustment that we do is we write it as f1 plus x minus 1. Okay, the output is remains fx, right? What we are doing? We are expanding about x minus 1. That means the h value that we are looking for should be x minus 1. Is this accepted or not? Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Keep this thing in mind. Whenever you want fx here, you will look for about what you have to expand. Then adjust this fx in such a way that you should get this kind of structure. This value that you have here will give you a. And now it is of the form a and h, where a is 1, h is x minus 1. Alright, now if I have to expand it, it's very simple. I'll write it as f1 plus x minus 1 f dash 1 plus x minus 1 square by factorial 2 f double dash 1 plus x minus 1 cube upon factorial 3 f triple dash 1 and so on, right? Now what is rfx and f1 and all we have already calculated, right? If fx is this, f dash x was 1 by x, f double dash x was minus 1 by x square, f triple dash x was 2 by x cube and so on. So substitute the value. Log 1 is 0 plus x minus 1, f dash 1 is 1 plus x minus 1 square upon factorial 2, f double dash 1 is minus 1, this is 2 and so on. And you are able to expand using x minus 1, right? Now the question says expand this in powers of x minus 1 and hence find log 1.1. So when you want log 1.1, that means for x you will put 1.1. Okay, so f 1.1 is 1.1 minus 1 plus 1.1 minus 1 square upon factorial 2 into minus 1 plus 1.1 minus 1 cube upon factorial 3 into 2 minus 1.1 minus 1 to the power 4 upon factorial 4, and the output was, if you remember, it was minus 6, I think. You can check, we had done this for log, so that was minus 6 plus and so on. Now it is easy for you to calculate, right? This is 0.1, this is 0.1 ka square by factorial 2, so sorry, this will be minus, so this will be minus 0.01 by 2 plus 0.001 by 3 minus 0.0001 upon factorial 4, so that will be 4 and so on, and simplify and get the answer. Understood? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Now write one more question. There is a question. Use Taylor's theorem to express the polynomial 2x cube plus 7x square plus x plus 6 in powers of x minus 2. Now here you have to observe two things. First thing is you have to adjust it in powers of x minus 2. So you will write it as f of 2 plus x minus 2. Is it okay? As we did there as 1 plus x minus 1. So that will give us powers of x minus 2. Second thing, this is a cubic polynomial. So till how many terms we have to differentiate? Till 3 terms. Fourth derivative will give us 0. Is that okay? So if we want to write the Taylor's expansion, it will be written like this, and it is f2 I'm not writing fourth term. I hope you have understood that fourth term will give us 0. So plus 0. Right? So this is your polynomial fx. Now first value, let us solve it here. What is f2? Just put the value and give me the value. f2 is 16 plus 28 plus 8. So this is 52. Then f dash x will give us 6x square 14x plus 1. F double dash x will give us 12x plus 14. F triple dash x will give us 12. So f dash 2, substitute, this is 4, 24, 28 and 1, 53. F double dash 2, 24 plus 14, that is 38. F triple dash 2 is 12. Ask if you are not clear. So F2 is 52. So Fx is equal to 52 plus x minus 2 f dash x. So that is 53 plus x minus 2 square by factorial 2 into 38 plus x minus 2 cube upon factorial 3 into 12. So when you simplify, you will get 52 plus x minus 2, 53 plus 19 x minus 2 square plus 2 x minus 3, 2 cube. Is this fine? Is this okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Understood how to do the expansions? You can
Yes,
study. This PPT is already uploaded. You can check it on your LMS. So this was for two variable. Now you have to remind me to solve Taylor and Maclaurin series for more than two variables. This is for one variable. For two variables and three variables, we will do it, but not now, after studying the partial differential equation. Okay. Now I want to
मैम
start. Yes, beta.
मैम एक डाउट था इसमें कि हम
हाँ.
लोग जैसे आपने पहला क्वेश्चन किया था x माइनस 1 मल्टीप्लाइड बाई ई एस टू पावर x, तो उसमें हम लोगों ने बाद में ई एस टू पावर x को मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया था, लेकिन कौन से क्वेश्चंस में ऐसे मल्टीप्लाई कर सकते हैं? मतलब मैंने एक पूछा था कि log x मल्टीप्लाइड बाई sin x, उसमें नहीं कर सकते थे।
नहीं उसमें करेंगे, लेकिन दो सीरीज अलग अलग निकाल कर करना पड़ेगा।
मतलब
मतलब
log
log
x का
x
करके और x का
हाँ,
निकाल के
उसमें
दोनों को
दो
मल्टीप्लाई
तरीका
करना
है,
पड़ेगा।
उसमें दो तरीका है। या तो भाई if you are good enough then you do the derivative. Suppose you have written it like this, right? into sin x. So what you can do, you write 3, 4, 5 terms to try and identify the value by finding this and this and this and so on, right? This is one way. The second way is you expand this and you expand this and then you take the product and write first few terms of the series.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So now I want to start with the next part of the questions or next part of the concept of partial derivative. So for that I want to start with the limits and continuity first. This is HK Das, it is already uploaded, you can check it. The next chapter that we have to do is partial differentiation, and partial differentiation simply suggests that your dependent variable has more than one independent variable. Okay, like you are dealing suppose you are dealing with plane. Now the function till now what we were writing y is equal to fx type of thing, right? So what was happening? Your y was acting as dependent and this was a function and x was independent variable, right? Whatever differentiation you did till now is complete differentiation. There was just one dependent variable and there was just one independent variable. Now we will be focusing on the functions which has more than one independent variable. Suppose the function is dependent on two variables, then we express it like this. Z is equal to fxy. Z is equal to fxy type of thing. See? Now what is happening here? You have two independent variables x and y and they are connected by some function f, and what output you are getting is your z, right? So obviously when you talk about z is equal to fxy, it represents a surface because now two axes are involved and the points on fxy will be lying on the plane. Okay, so first thing that you need to observe is that the z is equal to fxy represents a surface. Okay, this is first observation. Next, what we have to do, as you know, when we were talking about limit in two variables, when I say two variable, I simply mean one dependent and one independent variable. Okay, in that case what you were doing, you were trying to find the limit, and if left hand limit was equal to right hand limit, then you were saying that limit exists. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was happening in this, when you were approaching to a particular point, suppose you are testing the limit extending to a, then x moves on a number line on x-axis, right? And whatever output you are getting, that fx will move towards L. This was the system. This was the system. Limit means when your x was approaching to a point A, your fx should approach to a fixed value L. That was the meaning of limit. Yes or no? What you used to write? Limit x tending to A, fx is equal to L. That you used to write, right? Respond please. So when you are saying that limit of fx is L, it simply means when your x approaches to A, fx should approach to L. Okay? And x approaches to A means x is moving on this line. So there is just one way of approaching to A. That means either x approaches to A from this side to give you left hand limit, or x approaches to a from this side which gives you right hand limit, but the approach is along the straight line, that is x axis. Is this a statement understood or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear?
Yeah, it's understood.
Okay. Now I'm trying to make it for two variables. Just try and understand. I'm removing this and just see what it means when we say that we have two variables. Suppose you are talking about two variables. Okay. Now this is your point a comma b on which you are trying to get the limit. Okay. That means what you are saying x comma y is approaching to a comma b. Is this understood, the statement? Now you have to reach at this point. How many ways we can reach? There are a variety of ways. Now I'm showing it using different shades. You can come from here to here and then you can reach from here. In both way, x and y will. Okay. What else you can do? You can start from here and then you can reach from here to here. What you are doing? Your xy is approaching to a and b. Okay. Or you can start from here and reach here. Or what you can do? You can take some other curve. You can come like this to here. Or you can come like this to here. That means, though when you were dealing with two variables where y is equal to fx type of situation was prevailing, reaching x to a was just one path. You can approach to a by x in just one path, and that was x-axis. But when you reach to 2D, approaching of xy to AB can acquire variety of paths. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
That means in this case, if we are saying that fxy reaches to some limit L, then we have to ensure that xy approaching to AB should not be affected by the path adopted. Is this okay or not? If xy to AB alters L, then L can't be a limit. How you are approaching to AB, if that affects the limit, then limit does not exist. So this is one important difference between a 2D and a 3D. All right. Now let us see how it affects. Just see. Before I take, I want you to read the definition. The function fxy is said to tend to the limit L as x tends to a and y tends to b if and only if the limit L is independent of the path followed by the point xy as x tends to a and y tends to b. Okay, so this is very important, that it should not matter how you are reaching to AB, that should not alter L. And if that does not alter L, then we say that the limit exists. Okay, that's why when you deal with it, you talk about a circle around AB. Circle around AB. Now this is the working rule, and I want you to understand this working rule very carefully. If your A and B, just check this. If you are finding the limit, you will approach it in two ways. Suppose first you took this. First you approached X, then you approached Y, or you approached this way. If these two are equal, then limit exists. Okay. Find the value of fxy along x tending to a and y tending to b. Then find the value of fxy along y tending to b and x tending to a. If the values of fxy in step 1 and 2 remain the same, the limit exists, otherwise not. Here what is happening? AB is not 0, 0. Okay, this is important. If AB is 0, 0, then we will also follow, after checking this and this, we will also follow this. Step 3. What is step 3? You will find the limit along y is equal to mx or y is equal to mxn. If the value of the limit does not contain m, then limit exists. If it contains m, the limit does not exist. Okay, so what we do in this, first we try using this and make it f1, then we get value this and make it f2. If f1 is not equal to f2, limit does not exist. Okay, if f1 is equal to f2, then we'll proceed to the next step. What is that next step? We put y is equal to mx and find f3. If f3 is also equal, then limit exists. If it is unequal, limit does not exist. Then we try and find mx square. In most of the cases, mx square helps. Okay, in most of the cases. Sometimes according to the question, you need to change x square and make it x cube or xn. It depends. So this is subjective thing. Okay, depends on your function. If all four exist, then you say limit exists. Okay, so generally what happens when we try to find out the limit for x tending to 0 and y tending to 0, the steps increase and it becomes 1, 2, 3 and 4. 4 steps. But if we are finding the limit for non-zero values, then it has only 2 steps, that you find f1 and you find f2 and check if they are equal or not. Is it all right? Is it all right? Hmm? So now let's see how we solve these questions. Let me clear this.
In the beginning, you said there are many ways to reach the same point to find the limit, and all curves should satisfy the limit. And we are checking just 2 curves in the procedure.
If we are able to find y is equal to mx, because when you are saying 0, 0, right? When you are saying 0, 0, that means all the curves that satisfy 0, 0 will of the form y is equal to mx to the power n types. Is it agreeable or not? Hmm? Yes or no? Think. You are saying that you are approaching to 0, 0. When you are approaching to 0, 0, the curve through which you are approaching to 0, 0 should satisfy 0, 0, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what kind of curve you can find? You can find this kind of curve, na?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Now see this question. Very simple question. See this. Evaluate limit this when x is tending to 0 and y is tending to 0. So when we try and find the limit, we do it term by term or step by step. Okay. So when the first step is you are taking x first and then y. That's why you have put the value of x first and then you are taking the limit at y. So the moment you put 0 here, the output becomes 0. So whether you are putting y 0 or not does not matter. It becomes 0. Is this accepted or not? Hmm? Respond, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in this situation, what you are doing, you are putting y first and then you will put x. So when you put y first, the numerator becomes 0. So obviously this total will become 0. And whether you put x equals to 0, the limit will be 0 only. Okay. So this is the situation. You are able to find f1 is equal to f2. So third step, we will put y is equal to mx. Okay. When you put y is equal to mx, here you will get x cube and here you are getting x square. So you take out x square. Now when you put x as 0, see the output becomes 0. So third step is also satisfied. Next you will put y is equal to mx square. When you put mx square, x4 is common. See, now when you take out x4, the output contains m. This x4 will be cancelled. So you are getting m upon 1 plus m square. When output contains m, that means this limit is depending on the path. You change m, the limit will change. Do you understand this?
Yes, ma'am.
So here, though f1 was equal to f2 was equal to f3, but it is not equal to f4. Hence, limit does not exist. All right?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Huh?
So, ma'am, we have to find until the limit does not exist.
No, you have to find till f4. Suppose
Okay,
you
ma'am.
could
Ma'am, if
suppose
there
you
will be,
bolo.
ma'am, if there will be no m, then it exists, and we have to proceed.
Yes, then you will write. If there is no m and the value is equal to f1, f2 and f3, then it is okay. Then the limit will exist. All right? You can check the next one. This one. Here,
So, ma'am, we have
this
to do at least 4 steps.
at the most 4 steps.
Okay, ma'am.
Ah. And this is the special case. When will you use this? When x and y are tending to 0, 0. Not in all the cases. Is it fine?
Okay. Yes,
Step
ma'am.
3 is followed when you have the limit tending towards 0, 0. X and y tending towards 0, 0. Make it very clear in your mind. Now see this. Here in this case, f1, f2, f3 and f4 all are coming as 0. See, therefore the limit exists and is 0. All right. You can check this. Now see this particular question. Here you have x tending to 1 and y tending to 2. I have solved it. When you take y first and then x, the output is 3 by 5. And when you take x first and then y, again the output is 3 by 5. Since both the limits are equal, so the limit exists and is equal to 3 by 5. All right. Here we will not go for step 3. Is that fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And why we don't want to go to step 5? It's very simple thing. Just one small step I want you to understand. Suppose you have to reach at 2, 3. So you will move. Suppose you took x first, then you have come here and then you come here. Then y. You take in x first and then you have to y. Now when you are moving in a reverse direction, you took this first and then you move this. So there are only 2 ways of reaching to 2 by 3 when you have both the limits tending towards a specific value. That's why we take this side and this side and then this side and this side and check that they should be equal. When you are coming to 0, 0, you are coming to 0, 0. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's all for today. Let me take the attendance. Please start posting your attendance.